Indian economy has witnessed profound positive transformation in the last 10 years. The people of India are looking ahead to the future with hope and optimism. With the blessings of the people, when our government, under the visionary and dynamic leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, assumed office in 2014, the country was facing enormous challenges. With Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas as its mantra, the government overcame those challenges in right earnest. Structural reforms were undertaken. Pro-people programs were formulated and implemented promptly. Conditions were created for more opportunities for employment and entrepreneurship. The economy got a new vigor. The fruits of development started reaching the people at scale. The country got a new sense of purpose and hope. Naturally, the people blessed the government with a bigger mandate. In the second term, our government, under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, doubled down on its responsibilities to build a prosperous country with comprehensive development of all people and all regions. Our government strengthened its mantra to Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and Sabka Vishwas. Our development philosophy covered all elements of inclusivity, namely social inclusivity through coverage of all strata of the society, and geographical inclusivity through development of all regions of the country. With the whole of nation approach of Sabka Prayas, the country overcame the challenges of once-in-a-century pandemic, took long strides towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, committed to Panch Pran, and laid solid foundations for the Amrit Kal. As a result, our young country has high aspirations, pride in its present, and hope and confidence for a bright future. We expect that our government, based on its stupendous work, will be again by the people with a resounding mandate. Inclusive development and growth. Our humane and inclusive approach to development is a marked and deliberate departure from the earlier approach of provisioning up to village level. Development programs were thus provisioned. In the last 10 years, however, have targeted each and every household and individual through housing for all, Har Ghar Jal, electricity for all, cooking gas for all, bank accounts and financial services for all in record time. The worries about food have been eliminated through free ration for 80 crore people. Minimum support prices for the produce of Annadata are periodically increased appropriately. These and the provision of basic necessities have enhanced real income in the rural areas. Their economic needs could be addressed, thus spurring growth and generating jobs. Social justice. Our government is working with an approach to development that is all-round, all-pervasive, and all-inclusive. Sarvangin, Sarvasparshi, or Sarvasamaveshi. It covers all castes and people at all levels. We are working to make India a Vikasit Bharat by 2047. For achieving that goal, we need to improve people's capability and empower them. Previously, social justice was mostly a political slogan. For our government, social justice is an effective and necessary governance model. The saturation approach of covering all eligible people is the true and comprehensive achievement of social justice. This is secularism in action, reduces corruption, and prevents nepotism, prevents Bhai Bhatijawad. There is transparency and assurance that benefits are delivered to all eligible people. The resources are distributed fairly. All, regardless of their social standing, get access to opportunities. We are addressing systemic inequalities that had plagued our society. We focus on outcomes and not on outlays, so that the social economic transformation is achieved. As our Prime Minister firmly believes, we need to focus on 4 major castes. They are Garib, Mahilaye, Yuva, and Annadata. Their needs, their aspirations, and their welfare are our highest priority. The country progresses when they progress. All 4 require and receive government support in their quest to better their lives. Their empowerment and well-being will drive the country forward. Garib Kalyan, Desh Ka Kalyan. We believe in empowering the poor. The earlier approach of tackling poverty through entitlements had resulted in very modest outcomes. When the poor became empowered partners in the development process, government's power to assist them also increases manifold. With the pursuit of Sabka Saath, in these 10 years, the government has assisted 25 crore people to get freedom from multi-dimensional poverty. Our government's efforts are now getting synergized with energy and passion of such empowered people. This is truly elevating them from poverty. Direct benefit transfer of 34 lakh crore rupees from the government using PM Jandan accounts has led to savings of 2.7 lakh crores of rupees for the government. This savings has been realized through avoidance of leakages prevalent earlier. The savings have helped in providing more funds for Garib Kalyan. PM Swanidhi has provided credit assistance to 78 lakh street vendors. From that total of 78 lakh street vendors, 2.3 lakh have received credit for the 3rd time. PM Janman Yojana reaches out to the particularly vulnerable tribal groups who have remained outside the realm of development so far. PM Vishwakarma Yojana provides end-to-end support to artisans and craftspeople engaged in 18 trades. The schemes for empowerment of Divyangs and transgender persons reflect firm resolve of our government to leave no one behind. Welfare of Annadata. Farmers are our Annadata. Every year under PM Kisan Samman Yojana, direct financial assistance is provided to 11.8 crore farmers, including marginal and small farmers. Crop insurance is given to 4 crore farmers under PM Fasal Bima Yojana. These, besides several other programs, are assisting Annadata in producing food for the country and for the world. Electronic National Agricultural Market has integrated 1,361 mandis and is providing services to 1.8 crore farmers with trading volume of 3 lakh crores of rupees. The sector is poised for inclusive, balanced, higher growth and productivity. These are facilitated from farmer-centric policies, income support, coverage of risks through price and insurance support, promotion of technologies and innovations through startups. Empowering the Amrit PD, the Yuva. Our prosperity depends on adequately equipping and empowering the youth. The National Education Policy 2020 is ushering the transformational reforms. PM Schools for Rising India, PM Shri, are delivering quality teaching and nurturing holistic and well-rounded individuals. The Skill India mission has trained 1.4 crore youth, upskilled and reskilled 54 lakh youth, and established 3,000 new ITIs. A large number of institutions of higher learning, namely 7 IITs, 16 triple ITs, 7 IIMs, 15 AIMS, and 390 universities have been set up. PM Mudra Yojana has sanctioned 43 crore loans aggregating to 22.5 lakh crores of rupees for entrepreneurial aspirations of our youth. Besides that, Fund of Funds, Startup India, and Startup Credit Guarantee schemes are assisting our youth. They are also becoming Rozgar Data. The country is proud of our youth scaling new heights in sports. The highest ever medal tally in Asian Games and Asian Para Games in 2023 reflects a high confidence level. Chess prodigy and our #1 ranked player Pragnananda put up a stiff fight against the reigning world champion Magnus Carlsen in 2023. Today, India has over 80 chess grandmasters compared to little over 20 in 2010. Momentum for Nari Shakti. The empowerment of women through entrepreneurship, ease of living, and dignity for them has gained momentum in these 10 years. 30 crore Mudra Yojana loans have been given to women entrepreneurs. Female enrollment in higher education has gone up by 28% in 10 years. In STEM courses, girls and women constitute 43% of enrollment, one of the highest in the world. All these measures are getting reflected in the increasing participation of women in workforce. Making triple talaq illegal, reservation of 1/3 seats for women in the Lok Sabha and state assemblies, and giving over 70% houses under PM Awas Yojana in rural areas to women, and giving over 70% houses under PM Awas Yojana in rural areas to women as sole or joint owners have enhanced their dignity. Exemplary track record of governance, development, and performance. Besides delivering on high growth in terms of gross domestic product, the government is equally focused on a more comprehensive GDP, that is, governance, development, and performance. Our government has provided transparent, accountable, people-centric, and prompt, trust-based administration with citizen-first and minimum government, maximum governance approach. The impact of all-round development is discernible in all sectors. There is macroeconomic stability, including in the external sector. Investments are robust. The economy is doing well. People are living better and earning better, with even greater aspirations for future. Average real income of the people has increased by 50%. Inflation is moderate. People are getting empowered, equipped, and enabled to pursue their aspirations. There is effective and timely delivery of programs and of large projects. Economic management. The multi-pronged economic management over the past 10 years has complemented people-centric, inclusive development. Following are some of the major elements. 1. All forms of infrastructure, physical, digital, or social, are being built in record time. Number 2, all parts of the country are becoming active participants in economic growth. Number 3, digital public infrastructure, a new factor of production in the 21st century, is instrumental in formalization of the economy. Number 4, goods and services tax has enabled one nation, one market, one tax. Tax reforms have led to deepening and widening of tax base. Number 5, strengthening of the financial sector has helped in making savings, credit, and investments more efficient. Number 6, GIFT, IFSC, and the Unified Regulatory Authority, IFSCA, are creating a robust gateway for global capital and financial services for the economy. Number 7, proactive inflation management has helped keep inflation within the policy band. Now, the global context, Honorable Speaker, sir. Geopolitically, global affairs are becoming more complex and challenging with wars and conflicts. Globalization is being redefined with reshoring and friendshoring, disruption and fragmentation of supply chains, and competition for critical minerals and technologies. A new world order is emerging after the COVID pandemic. India assumed the G20 presidency during very difficult times for the world. The global economy was going through high inflation, high interest rates, low growth, very high public debt, low trade growth, and climate changes. The pandemic has led to a crisis of food, fertilizer, fuel, and finances for the world, while India successfully navigated its way. The country showed the way forward and built consensus on solutions for those global problems. The recently announced India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor is a strategic and economic game changer for India and others. In the words of Honorable Prime Minister, the corridor, and I quote, will become the basis of world trade for hundreds of years to come, and history will remember that this corridor was initiated on Indian soil. Unquote. Vision for Vikasit Bharat. Our vision for Vikasit Bharat is that of prosperous Bharat in harmony with nature, with modern infrastructure, and providing opportunities for all citizens and all regions to reach their potential. With confidence arising from strong and exemplary track record of performance and progress, earning Sabka Vishwas, the next 5 years will be years of unprecedented development and golden moments to realize the dream of developed India by 2047. The trinity of demography, democracy, and diversity backed by Sabka Prayas has the potential to fulfill aspirations of every Indian. As Honorable Prime Minister in his Independence Day address to the nation mentioned, I quote, "There is no dearth of opportunities, as many opportunities as we want. The country is capable of creating more opportunities. Sky is the limit," unquote. Strategy for Amrit Kal. Our government will adopt economic policies that foster and sustain growth, facilitate inclusive and sustainable development, improve productivity, create opportunities for all, help them enhance their capabilities, and contribute to generation of resources to power investments and fulfill aspirations. Guided by the principle, reform, perform, and transform, the government will take up next generation reforms and build consensus with the states and stakeholders for effective implementation. It is an important policy priority for our government to ensure timely and adequate finances, relevant technologies, and appropriate training for the micro, small, and medium enterprises, MSMEs, to grow and also compete globally. Orienting the regulatory environment to facilitate their growth will be an important element of this policy mix. Aligning with the Panchamrit goals, our government will facilitate sustaining high and more resource-efficient economic growth. This will work towards energy security in terms of availability, accessibility, and affordability. For meeting the investment needs, our government will prepare the financial sector in terms of size, capacity, skills, and regulatory framework. Aspirational Districts Program. Our government stands ready to assist the states in faster development of aspirational districts and blocks, including generation of ample economic opportunities. Development of the East. Our government will pay utmost attention to make the eastern region and its people a powerful driver of India's growth. PM Awas Yojana Gramin. Despite the challenges due to COVID, implementation of PM Awas Yojana Gramin continued, and we are close to achieving the target of 3 crore houses. 2 crore more houses will be taken up in the next 5 years to meet the requirement arising from increase in the number of families. Rooftop solarization and Muft Bijli. Through rooftop solarization, 1 crore households will be enabled to obtain up to 300 units free electricity every month. This scheme follows the resolve of Honorable Prime Minister on the historic day of consecration of Sri Ram Mandir in Ayodhya. Following benefits are expected. Savings up to 15 to 18,000 rupees annually for households from free solar electricity and selling the surplus to the distribution companies. Charging of electric vehicles. Entrepreneurship opportunities for a large number of vendors for supply and installation. Employment opportunities for the youth with technical skills in manufacturing, installation, and maintenance. Housing for middle class. Our government will launch a scheme to help deserving sections of the middle class, and I quote from Honorable Prime Minister's words, living in rented houses or slums or chawls and unauthorized colonies, unquote, to buy or build their own houses. Medical colleges. Several youth are ambitious to get qualified as doctors. They aim to serve our people through improved healthcare services. Our government plans to set up more medical colleges by utilizing the existing hospital infrastructure under various departments. A committee for this purpose will be set up to examine the issues and make relevant recommendations. Cervical cancer vaccination. Our government will encourage vaccination for girls in the age group of 9 to 14 years for prevention of cervical cancer. Maternal and child health care. Various schemes for maternal and child care will be brought under one comprehensive program for synergy in implementation. Upgradation of Anganwadi centers under Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan 2.0 will be expedited for improved nutrition delivery, early childhood care and development. The newly designed U-Win platform for managing immunization and intensified efforts of Mission Indradhanush will be rolled out expeditiously throughout the country. Ayushman Bharat. Healthcare cover under Ayushman Bharat scheme will be extended to all ASHA workers, to all Anganwadi workers and helpers. Agriculture and food processing. The efforts of value addition in agriculture sector and boosting farmers' incomes will be stepped up. Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana has benefited 38 lakh farmers and generated 10 lakh employment. Pradhan Mantri Formalization of Micro Food Processing Enterprises Yojana has assisted 2.4 lakh SHGs and 60,000 individuals with credit linkages. Other schemes are complementing the efforts for reducing post-harvest losses and improving productivity and incomes. For ensuring faster growth of the sector, our government will further promote private and public investment in post-harvest activities, including aggregation, modern storage, efficient supply chains, primary and secondary processing and marketing and branding. Nano DAP. After the successful adoption of nano urea, application of nano DAP on various crops will be expanded in all agroclimatic zones. Atmanirbhar Oil Seeds Abhiyan. Building on the initiative announced in 2022, a strategy will be formulated to achieve Atmanirbharta for oil seeds such as mustard, groundnut, sesame, soya bean, and sunflower. This will cover research for high-yielding varieties, widespread adoption of modern farming techniques, market linkages, procurement, value addition, and crop insurance. Dairy development. A comprehensive program for supporting dairy farmers will be formulated. Efforts are already on to control foot and mouth disease. India is the world's largest milk producer but with low productivity of milch animals. The program will be built on the success of existing schemes such as Rashtriya Gokul Mission, National Livestock Mission, and infrastructure development funds for dairy processing and animal husbandry. Matsya Sampada. It was a government which set up a separate department for fisheries, realizing the importance of assisting fishermen. This has resulted in doubling of both inland and aquaculture production. Seafood exports since 2013-14 has also doubled. Implementation of Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana will be stepped up 2. 1. Enhance aquaculture productivity from existing 3 to 5 tons per hectare. 2. Double exports to 1 lakh crore rupees. And 3. Generate 55 lakh employment opportunities in the near future. 5 integrated aqua parks will also be set up. Lakpati Didi. 83 lakh SHGs. 83 lakh SHGs with 9 crore women are transforming rural socio-economic landscape with empowerment and self-reliance. Honorable Speaker sir, their success has assisted nearly 1 crore women to become Lakpati Didi already. They are an inspiration to others. Their achievements will be recognized through honoring them. Buoyed by the success, it has been decided to enhance the target for Lakpati Didi from 2 crores to 3 crores. Technological changes, new age technologies and data are changing the lives of people and businesses. They are also enabling new economic opportunities and facilitating provision of high-quality services at affordable prices for all, including those at the bottom of the pyramid. Opportunities for India at the global level are expanding. India is showing solutions through innovation and entrepreneurship of its people. Research and innovation for catalyzing growth, employment, and development. Prime Minister Shastri, Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri gave the slogan of Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Prime Minister Vajpayee, Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, made that Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Jai Vigyan. Prime Minister Modi has furthered that to Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Jai Vigyan and Jai Anusandhan, as innovation is the foundation of development. For our tech-savvy youth, this will be a golden era. A corpus of 1 lakh crore rupees will be established with 50-year interest-free loan provided. The corpus will provide long-term financing or refinancing with long tenors and low and or nil. I repeat that sentence. The corpus will provide long-term financing or refinancing with long tenors and low or nil interest rates. This will encourage the private sector to scale up research and innovation significantly in sunrise domains. We need to have programs that combine the powers of our youth and technology. A new scheme will be launched for strengthening deep tech technologies for defense purposes and expediting Atmanirbharta. Infrastructure development. Building on the massive tripling of the capital expenditure outlay in the past 4 years, resulting in huge multiplier impact on economic growth and employment creation, the outlay for the next year is being increased by 11.1% to 11,111 crore rupees. This would be 3.4% of our GDP. Railways. 3 major railway corridor programs will be implemented. These are energy, mineral and cement corridor. Number 2, port connectivity corridors. And number 3, high traffic density corridors. The projects have been identified under the PM Gati Shakti for enabling multimodal connectivity. They will improve logistics efficiency and reduce cost. The resultant decongestion of the high traffic corridors will also help in improving operations of passenger trains, resulting in safety and higher travel speed for passengers. Together with dedicated freight corridors, these three economic corridor programs will accelerate our GDP growth and reduce logistic costs. 40,000 normal rail bogies will be converted to Vande Bharat standards to enhance safety, convenience, and comfort of passengers. Aviation sector. The aviation sector has been galvanized in the past 10 years. Number of airports have doubled to 149. Rollout of air connectivity to Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities under UDAN scheme has been widespread. 517 new routes are carrying 1.3 crore passengers. Indian carriers have proactively placed orders for over 1,000 new aircrafts. Expansion of existing airports and development of new airports will continue expeditiously. Metro and Namo Bharat. We have a fast expanding middle class and rapid urbanization is taking place. Metro rail and Namo Bharat can be the catalyst for the required urban transformation. Expansion of these systems will be supported in large cities, focusing on transit-oriented development. Green energy. Towards meeting our commitment for net zero by 2070, the following measures will be taken. Viability gap funding will be provided for harnessing offshore wind energy potential for initial capacity of 1 gigawatt. Coal gasification and liquefaction capacity of 100 metric tons will be set up by 2030. This will also help in reducing imports of natural gas, methanol, and ammonia. Phased mandatory blending of compressed biogas in compressed natural gas for transport and piped natural gas for domestic purposes will be mandated. Financial assistance will be provided for procurement of biomass aggregation machinery to support collection. Electric vehicle ecosystem. Our government will expand this and strengthen the e-vehicle ecosystem by supporting manufacturing and charging infrastructure. Greater adoption of e-buses for public transport networks will be encouraged through payment security mechanism. Biomanufacturing and biofoundry. For promoting green growth, a new scheme of biomanufacturing and biofoundry will be launched. This will provide environment-friendly alternatives such as biodegradable polymers, bioplastics, biopharmaceuticals, and bioagri-inputs. This scheme will also help in transforming today's consumptive manufacturing paradigm to the one based on regenerative principles. Blue Economy 2.0. For promoting climate resilient activities for Blue Economy 2.0, a scheme for restoration and adaptation measures and coastal aquaculture and mariculture with integrated and multi-sectoral approach will be launched. Comprehensive development of tourist centers. The success of organizing G20 meetings in 60 places presented diversity of India to global audience. Our economic strength has made the country an attractive destination for business and conference tourism. Our middle class also now aspires to travel and explore. Tourism, including spiritual tourism, has tremendous opportunities for local entrepreneurship. States will be encouraged to take up comprehensive development of iconic tourist centers, branding and marketing them at global scale. A framework for rating of the centers based on quality of facilities and services will be established. Long-term interest-free loans will be provided to states for financing such development on matching basis. To address the emerging fervor for domestic tourism, Honorable Speaker, sir, projects for port connectivity, tourism infrastructure, and amenities will be taken up on our islands, including Lakshadweep. This will help in generating employment also. Promoting investments. The FDI inflow during 2014 to 23 was 596 billion US dollars, marking a golden era. That is twice the inflow during 2005 to 14. For encouraging sustained foreign investment, we are negotiating bilateral investment treaties with our foreign partners in the spirit of First Develop India. FDI is First Develop India. Reforms in the states for Vikasit Bharat. Many growth and development enabling reforms are needed in the states for realizing the vision of Vikasit Bharat. A provision of 75,000 crore rupees as 50-year interest-free loan is proposed this year to support those milestone-linked reforms by the state governments. Societal changes. The government will form a high-powered committee for an extensive consideration of the challenges arising from fast population growth and demographic changes. The committee will be mandated to make recommendations for addressing these challenges comprehensively in relation to the goal of Vikasit Bharat. Amrit Kal as Kartavya Kal. Our government stands committed to strengthening and expanding the economy with high growth and to create conditions for people to realize their aspirations. Honorable Prime Minister, in his Independence Day address to the nation in the 75th year of our Republic, said, and I quote, "We commit ourselves to national development with new inspirations, new consciousness, new resolutions as the country opens up immense possibilities and opportunities. It is our Kartavya Kal." Unquote. Every challenge of the pre-2014 era was overcome through our economic management and our governance. These have placed the country on a resolute path of sustained high growth. This has been possible through right policies, true intentions, and appropriate decisions. In the full budget in July, Honorable Speaker, our government will present a detailed roadmap for our pursuit of Vikasit Bharat. Revised estimates. Revised estimates of 2023-24. The revised estimate of the total receipts other than borrowings is 27.56 lakh crores of rupees, of which the tax receipts are 23.24 lakh crore rupees. The revised estimate of total expenditure is 44.90 lakh crore rupees. The revenue receipts at 30.03 lakh crore rupees are expected to be higher than the budget estimate, reflecting strong growth momentum and formalization in the economy. The revised estimate of the fiscal deficit is 5.8% of GDP, improving on the budget estimate, notwithstanding moderation in the nominal growth estimates. Budget estimates for 2024-25. Coming to the year 2024-25, the total receipts other than borrowings and total expenditure are estimated at 30.80 and 47.66 lakh crore rupees respectively. The tax receipts are estimated at 26.02 lakh crore rupees. The scheme of 50-year interest-free loan for capital expenditure to states will be continued this year with an outlay of 1.3 lakh crore rupees. We continue on the path of fiscal consolidation, as announced in my budget speech of 2021-22, to reduce fiscal deficit below 4.5% by 25-26. The fiscal deficit in 2024-25 is estimated to be 5.1% of GDP, adhering to that path. So the gross and net market borrowings through dated securities during 24-25 are estimated at 14.13 lakh crore rupees and 11.75 lakh crore respectively. Both will be less than that in 23-24. Now that the private investments are happening at scale, the lower borrowings by the central government will facilitate larger availability of credit for the private sector. Vote on account. I'll be seeking vote on account approval of the Parliament through the appropriation bill for a part of the financial year 2024-25. I will now move to Part B. Honourable Speaker, sir, over the last 10 years, the direct tax collections have more than trebled and the return filers swelled 2.4 times. I would like to assure the taxpayers that their contributions have been used wisely for the development of the country and welfare of its people. I appreciate the taxpayers for their continued support. The government has reduced and rationalized tax rates. Under the new tax scheme, there is now no tax liability for taxpayers with income up to 7 lakh rupees, up from 2.2 lakh rupees in the financial year 2013-14. The threshold for presumptive taxation for retail businesses was increased from 2 crores to 3 crores. Similarly, the threshold for professionals eligible for presumptive taxation was increased from 50 lakh rupees to 75 lakh rupees. Also, corporate tax rate was decreased from 30% to 22% for existing domestic companies and to 15% for certain new manufacturing companies. Honourable Speaker, sir, in the last 5 years, our focus has been to improve taxpayer services. The age-old jurisdiction-based assessment system was transformed with the introduction of faceless assessment and appeal, thereby imparting greater efficiency, transparency, and accountability. Introduction of updated income tax returns, a new Form 26AS, and pre-filling of tax returns have made filing of tax returns simpler and easier. Average processing time of returns has been reduced from 93 days in the year 2013-14 to a mere 10 days this year, thereby making refunds faster. Indirect taxation. By unifying the highly fragmented indirect tax regime in India, the GST has reduced the compliance burden on trade and industry. The industry has acknowledged the benefits of GST. According to a recent survey conducted by a leading consulting firm, 94% of industry leaders view the transition to GST as largely positive. According to 80% of the respondents, it has led to supply chain optimization, as elimination of tax arbitrage and octroi has resulted in disbanding of checkposts at the state and city boundaries. At the same time, tax base of GST more than doubled, and the average monthly gross GST collection has almost doubled to 1.66 lakh crores this year. States too have benefited. States' SGST revenue, including compensation released to states in the post-GST period of 2017-18 to 2022-23, has achieved a buoyancy of 1.22. In contrast, the tax buoyancy of state revenues from subsumed taxes in the pre-GST four-year period of 2012-13 to 2015-16 was a mere 0.72. The biggest beneficiaries are consumers, as reduction in logistic cost and taxes have brought down prices of most goods and services. We have taken a number of steps in customs to facilitate international trade. As a result, the import release time declined by 47% to 71 hours at inland container depots, by 28% to 44 hours at air cargo complexes, and by 27% to 85 hours at seaports over the last 4 years since 2019, when the national time release studies were first started. Tax proposals. As for tax proposals, in keeping with the convention, I do not propose to make any changes relating to taxation and propose to retain the same tax rates for direct and indirect taxes, including import duties. However, certain tax benefits to startups and investments made by sovereign wealth or pension funds, as also tax exemption on certain income of some IFSC units, are expiring on 31/3/2024. To provide continuity in taxation, I propose to extend the date to 31/3/2025. Moreover, in line with our government's vision to improve ease of living and ease of doing business, I wish to make an announcement to improve taxpayer services. There are a large number of petty, non-verified, non-reconciled or disputed direct tax demands, many of them dating as far back as 1962, which continue to remain on the books, causing anxiety to honest taxpayers and hindering refunds of subsequent years. Honorable Speaker, sir, I propose to withdraw such outstanding direct tax demands up to 25,000 rupees pertaining to the period up to financial year 2009-10 and up to 10,000 rupees for financial years 2010-11 to 2014-15. This is expected to benefit about 1 crore taxpayers. 1 crore taxpayers would benefit out of this. Economy then and now. In 2014, when our government assumed the reins, the responsibility to mend the economy step by step and to put the governance systems in order was enormous. The need of the hour was to give hope to the people, to attract investments and to build support for the much-needed reforms. The government did that successfully following our strong belief of nation first. The crisis of those years has been overcome and the economy has been put firmly on a high, sustainable growth path with all-round development. It is now appropriate to look at where we were then. I repeat, it is now appropriate to look at where we were then till 2014 and where we are now, only for the purpose of drawing lessons from the mismanagement of those years. The government will lay a white paper on table of the House. The exemplary track record of governance, development and performance, effective delivery and Jan Kalyan has given the government trust, confidence and blessings of the people to realize whatever it takes. The goal of Vikasit Bharat with good intentions, true dedication and hard work in the coming years and decades. With this, Honourable Speaker, I commend the interim budget to this august House. Jai Hind.
Item number 2, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji.
So, with your permission, I rise to lay on the table the following statements under Section 3(1) of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act 2003, Medium-Term Fiscal Policy cum Fiscal Policy Strategy Statement and Macroeconomic Framework Statement.
Item number 3, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji.
Sir, with your permission, I rise to move for leave to introduce the Finance Bill 2024.
प्रश्न ये है कि विधेयक को पुनर्स्थापित करने की अनुमति प्रदान की जाए। जो सदस्य इसके पक्ष में हाँ कहें, जो सदस्य विरोध में ना कहें, मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्ष हुआ, हाँ वालों के पक्ष हुआ। माननीय मंत्री जी विधेयक को पुनर्स्थापित करें।
So I introduce the bill.
सभा की कार्रवाई शुक्रवार दिनांक 2 फरवरी 2024 को प्राप्त 11 बजे तक के लिए स्थगित की जाती है।
Well, that was the finance minister there. Quite a short and sweet speech, we would say, just about 1 hour that she took there in the Parliament House. But let's bring you up to speed with all the key highlights of that speech that we have there. Very, pretty much in lines with what is already priced in or penciled in by the market, one would say. If you have to look at firstly the capex plan, now that was something that was pretty much on everyone's mind, and what would be that figure? Well, it is coming there at just about 11.1% hike that we are seeing in FY25, coming in at that 11 lakh crore mark or so. So no much big changes there. We were I remember talking about some big push coming in then, especially ahead of a election year. That was what we wanted. But Street might be a little disappointed on that one. But nonetheless, there is a hike. There is focus, at least for the government, towards infrastructure through what the FM speech is. The other number is the big one coming in there for the fiscal deficit. And that number coming in at 5.8% of the GDP. This is the revised estimate that they've put in. Lower, so that is definitely going to be something that is going to cheer the street, one would say. The FY24 fiscal deficit target has been lowered to 5.8% versus the 5.9% that was there earlier. In terms of the other numbers that we are seeing, the big numbers that she did mention was that of the tax receipts, and we know that we have been seeing quite a robust collections, not just from personal income tax, but also the indirect taxes. We just got the GST numbers for the last month that came in. So pretty robust that tax number as well, coming in at 26.02 lakh crore rupees in terms of the tax estimates, revised estimates that they have for FY24-25. But that final, what you would say, the nail in the coffin, if you had to, that everyone had their hopes pinned on, well, those have kind of been dashed, because the finance minister was very categorical and very straightforward in saying there will be absolutely no changes in any of the direct taxes as well as the indirect taxes. She did mention, the other changes that will be there, and those will perhaps be in the fine print of the budget document that we'll get into. But let's quickly also listen into some of those reactions that we're getting in from different quarters on what they're making of the budget speech that was just read out by the finance minister.
Ayushman Bharat. Healthcare cover under Ayushman Bharat scheme will be extended to all ASHA workers, to all Anganwadi workers and helpers. Agriculture and food processing. The efforts of value addition in agriculture sector and boosting farmers' incomes will be stepped up. Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana has benefited 38 lakh farmers and generated 10 lakh employment. Pradhan Mantri Formalization of Micro Food Processing Enterprises Yojana has assisted 2.4 lakh SHGs and 60,000 individuals with credit linkages. Other schemes are complementing the efforts for reducing post-harvest losses and improving productivity and incomes. Despite the challenges due to COVID, implementation of PM Awas Yojana Gramin continued, and we are close to achieving the target of 3 crore houses. 2 crore more houses will be taken up in the next 5 years to meet the requirement arising from increase in the number of families. Rooftop solarization and Muft Bijli. Through rooftop solarization, 1 crore households will be enabled to obtain up to 300 units free electricity every month. This scheme follows the resolve of Honorable Prime Minister on the historic day of consecration of Sri Ram Mandir in Ayodhya. Following benefits are expected. Savings up to 15 to 18,000 rupees annually for households from free solar electricity and selling the surplus to the distribution companies. Charging of electric vehicles. Entrepreneurship opportunities for a large number of vendors for supply and installation. Employment opportunities for the youth with technical skills in manufacturing, installation, and maintenance. Housing for middle class. Our government will launch a scheme to help deserving sections of the middle class, and I quote from Honorable Prime Minister's words, living in rented houses or slums or chawls and unauthorized colonies, unquote, to buy or build their own houses. Matsya Sampada. It was a government which set up a separate department for fisheries, realizing the importance of assisting fishermen. This has resulted in doubling of both inland and aquaculture production. Seafood exports since 2013-14 has also doubled. Implementation of Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana will be stepped up to 1. Enhance aquaculture productivity from existing 3 to 5 tons per hectare. 2. Double exports to 1 lakh crore rupees, and 3. Generate 55 lakh employment opportunities in the near future. 5 integrated aqua parks will also be set up. Lakpati Didi. 83 lakh SHGs. 83 lakh SHGs with 9 crore women are transforming rural socio-economic landscape with empowerment and self-reliance. Honorable Speaker sir, their success has assisted nearly 1 crore women to become Lakpati Didi already. They are an inspiration to others. Their achievements will be recognized through honoring them. Buoyed by the success, it has been decided to enhance the target for Lakpati Didi from 2 crores to 3 crores. Technological changes, new age technologies and data are changing the lives of people and businesses. They are also enabling new economic opportunities and facilitating provision of high quality services at affordable prices for all, including those at the bottom of the pyramid. Opportunities for India at the global level are expanding. The multi-pronged economic management over the past 10 years has complemented people-centric, inclusive development. Following are some of the major elements. 1. All forms of infrastructure, physical, digital, or social, are being built in record time. Number 2, all parts of the country are becoming active participants in economic growth. Number 3, digital public infrastructure, a new factor of production as if in the 21st century, is instrumental in formalization of the economy. Number 4, goods and services tax has enabled one nation, one market, one tax. Tax reforms have led to deepening and widening of tax base. Number 5, strengthening of the financial sector has helped in making savings, credit, and investments more efficient. Number 6, GIFT, IFSC, and the Unified Regulatory Authority, IFSCA, are creating a robust gateway for global capital and financial services for the economy. Number 7, proactive inflation management has helped keep inflation within the policy band. The fruits of development started reaching the people at scale. The country got a new sense of purpose and hope. Naturally, the people blessed the government with a bigger mandate. In the second term, our government, under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, doubled down on its responsibilities to build a prosperous country with comprehensive development of all people and all regions. Our government strengthened its mantra to Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and Sabka Vishwas. Our development philosophy covered all elements of inclusivity, namely social inclusivity through coverage of all strata of the society, and geographical inclusivity through development of all regions of the country. With the whole of nation approach of Sabka Prayas, the country overcame the challenges of once-in-a-century pandemic, took long strides towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, committed to Panch Pran, and laid solid foundations for the Amrit Kal. As a result, our young country has high aspirations, pride in its present, and hope and confidence for a bright future. We expect that our government, based on its stupendous work, will be again by the people with a resounding mandate. Inclusive development and growth. Our humane and inclusive approach to development is a marked and deliberate departure from the earlier approach of provisioning up to village level. Development programs were thus provisioned. In the last 10 years, however, have targeted each and every household and individual through housing for all, Har Ghar Jal, electricity for all, cooking gas for all, bank accounts and financial services for all in record time. The worries about food have been eliminated through free ration for 80 crore people. Minimum support prices for the produce of Annadata are periodically increased appropriately. These and the provision of basic necessities have enhanced real income in the rural areas. Their economic needs could be addressed, thus spurring growth and generating jobs. Social justice. Our government is working with an approach to development that is all-round, all-pervasive, and all-inclusive. Sarvangin, Sarvasparshi, or Sarvasamaveshi. Inclusive development and growth. Our humane and inclusive approach to development is a marked and deliberate departure from the earlier approach of provisioning up to village level. Development programs were thus provisioned. In the last 10 years, however, have targeted each and every household and individual through housing for all, Har Ghar Jal, electricity for all, cooking gas for all, bank accounts and financial services for all in record time. The worries about food have been eliminated through free ration for 80 crore people. Minimum support prices for the produce of Annadata are periodically increased appropriately. These and the provision of basic necessities have enhanced real income in the rural areas. Their economic needs could be addressed, thus spurring growth and generating jobs. Social justice. Our government is working with an approach to development that is all-round, all-pervasive, and all-inclusive. Sarvangin, Sarvasparshi, or Sarvasamaveshi. It covers all castes and people at all levels. We are working to make India a Vikasit Bharat by 2047.
Welcome back then. We are here live on Moneycontrol and you are watching what we are calling the Election Budget 2024. Well, after going by that speech, we can say at least the equity markets, pretty much losing out on those gains or losing steam, one would say. No big surprises they're coming from the finance minister either, pretty much sticking to her guns and, just giving out the numbers that we perhaps, or rather the streets had already factored in there. But markets pretty much flat, I would say, at this point. But let's see, the budget now becoming pretty much that no-show. I have with me on the show Sachidanand Uttekar. Thanks so much for joining us, firstly. And, let's give us your first take on what did you make of that short budget speech by the finance minister.
Well, actually, the expectations were very low, and she had already made a statement that there may not be any big surprises. So I think overall, even if you look at the first half of the market performance, Nifty has been very range bound, and probably we may see this range bound action getting continued. So technically, 21,830 remains a important price point unless we don't see the Nifty scaling above that particular level. There may not be any meaningful recovery. But on the short side, I think even if you look at the developments here, I think 21,700, 21,600, the put writing action has been very significant for at least for the day. So probably we may see the Nifty oscillate within this particular range itself, and it may be a no-show kind of a day. Right. But when it comes to Nifty Bank, probably we may see a surprise here. So this is something which.
What you're talking about banks, but let me just go back to a couple of those numbers that the finance minister has put out in terms of, if you look at the borrowing number, that one coming in at 14.1 lakh crore rupees. If you're talking about what we are getting in terms of tax receipt, that she's pegged at 26.02 lakh rupees, lakh crore, beg your pardon there. But so we seem to have met that balance in terms of the deficit number also there, coming in pretty much in line, we would say, with what already the streets have penciled in. Given these macros, now the budget is out of the way. For the market, what would be the next cue then?
Well, I think right now, if you look at the major price points, the anticipation was there that there may not be any significant development. And rightly so, if you look at the current expiry itself, the way Nifty started scaling above that 21,000, 21,100 mark, there's a clear-cut range which has been defined. We don't see markets immediately scaling about 21,900, at least when we look at the options data here. Yeah. And on the lower side, as I said, 21,600 may be an important level for today. But going forward, in case if Nifty starts trending below 21,400, then probably we may see a decent decline. Right. So the next Q it will be very difficult. But as of now, just going by the data, it looks more range bound. So probably we may see a time and price
and we are on expiry, weekly expiry as well. So we could have, expiry was last Thursday, I beg your pardon. But that's what we're seeing. So in terms of the range, we are pretty much stuck, we would say, in that 21. We were hoping to go above that 21,700. That's where we started this morning. But, pretty flat, I would say, right now is what we're trading in. In terms of the sectors or stocks that we could be looking out in such a market, of course, the finance minister didn't give any of those, hints even we could to look at any particular stock, but any kind of traction that you're seeing in particular stocks in terms of the charts that are really changing today after the speech, perhaps?
So I think there was an expectation on the PSU side, and I think PSU banks have been relatively stable. Even going ahead in the budget, we saw most of them, consolidating. We did not see any meaningful corrections in them. So I think within this particular space, one stock which we are highlighting and we are recommending to our clients is SBI. So from a long-term perspective, we have already seen the stock consolidating very well within the 600, 660 zone. And we may see one particular move on the upside which may trigger that large scale up move.
Okay.
So I think SBI is one particular stock which can be accumulated from a portfolio perspective. We may see eventually the stock scaling towards 720. But from a trading perspective, one can chase momentum longs in case 650 level is breached in today's sessions. Unless that is not done, it is better not to add on to any aggressive long positions.
Right.
If you look at Nifty again, it is again drifting down. So probably we may see that oscillation here.
Yeah.
So
What about the bank Nifty also? I think that one perhaps has just turned a little bit in the positive, and maybe because of counters, like you were saying, some of those PSU banking names that were seeing some bit of action there. So what should be the strategy for the bank Nifty at least?
even here, I think it is better to take a level-based trade. We may see a surprising move in case Nifty Bank starts trending above 46,300, and I think that will be a significant breakout point. But on the lower side, the kind of supports that have been met at around 45,600, 700, I think these particular support levels may sustain.
Okay.
But I think the surprise may only come in once the Nifty Bank starts trending above 46,300.
Well, those were the technicals, but let's also talk a little bit about the broader markets. Now, we've seen that this one being almost a no-go in terms of giving a trigger. We also heard from the Fed, overnight, wherein they have just, in fact, dampened hope, saying that March rate cut perhaps is not coming any time in March, like how we were penciling in, or at least what the street was penciling in. Crude oil prices for us have somehow, been at least not so much of a worry at this point, one would say, because we are at those $75 and $80 per barrel and moving between those ranges. So we still have all of our pieces, the positive pieces pretty much in place for us. In such an environment, is it like, what should one really play? What should be the strategy in terms of, should we be looking at large cap stocks? Okay, people have said, those are the ones making the comeback. But what should really be the play in terms of a long-term portfolio in that sense?
See, the major trend for the market remains healthy unless we don't see the Nifty, trending below 20,500. This is where the weekly gap support area is defined. So unless we don't see it, closing that gap, the major trend structure remains very healthy. But if you look at the near term, especially the February and the March series, now these are seasonally series wherein a lot of consolidation happens, and probably we may see the Nifty respecting this data point. So we are not really very confident that we may see a immediate rally in the market, but probably after a month of consolidation, we may see the overall resumption of the up move. But as of now, I think in case if we get declines, those declines would be very healthy, and the expectation is that within a span of around 6 months or so, we may see Nifty again scaling towards 23,000, 23,400 kind of a level. So
Right.
I think it's a good consolidation after a healthy up move, and probably one more month of consolidation, then probably we may see a good strong rally on the upside.
Right. Now, if you're talking about sectors, I would want your perspective on the auto sectors. Today, among our top gainers, at least, come from the auto pack for today's session. But overall, we didn't hear much. We were hoping there would be some announcement in terms of EVs or some kind of, leeway there, but none of those announcements either. So, as a whole, for the auto sector, what would be your take at this point?
So the sector trend has been very strong. In fact, on its monthly and weekly scale, we have already seen a bullish breakout from a continuation pattern, which is a flag formation. So there are no signs of any exhaustion here. We expect that this particular trend momentum can continue towards 21,000, 21,300. And within this pack, what we have recommended even on your sister channel is a stock like Maruti. Now, the stock was underperforming, and it formed a very strong base at around 10,000 levels, where its 200-day exponential moving average was placed. And from that level itself, we have seen a fresh bullish up move. So we expect that there has been a fair amount of consolidation for the last 2 months or so, and from that consolidation, we have seen a fresh up move getting triggered. So on a broader structure, we are anticipating that the stock may scale towards 11,800 eventually. So in case if we see some declines or consolidation, from a trend perspective, one can accumulate this counter, keeping a stop loss somewhere close to around 10,000. And on the higher side, we may see it scaling towards 11,800.
Interesting picks there from the auto pack at least. Thanks so much, Achitanand, for joining us in this session. But we have a lot more packed up for you. All the big voices right here on Moneycontrol. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Inclusive development and growth. Our humane and inclusive approach to development is a marked and deliberate departure from the earlier approach of provisioning up to village level. Development programs were thus provisioned. In the last 10 years, however, have targeted each and every household and individual through housing for all, Har Ghar Jal, electricity for all, cooking gas for all, bank accounts and financial services for all in record time. The worries about food have been eliminated through free ration for 80 crore people. Minimum support prices for the produce of Annadata are periodically increased appropriately. These and the provision of basic necessities have enhanced real income in the rural areas. Their economic needs could be addressed, thus spurring growth and generating jobs. Social justice. Our government is working with an approach to development that is all-round, all-pervasive, and all-inclusive. Sarvangin, Sarvasparshi, or Sarvasamaveshi. The fruits of development started reaching the people at scale. The country got a new sense of purpose and hope. Naturally, the people blessed the government with a bigger mandate. In the second term, our government, under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, doubled down on its responsibilities to build a prosperous country with comprehensive development of all people and all regions. Our government strengthened its mantra to Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and Sabka Vishwas. Our development philosophy covered all elements of inclusivity, namely social inclusivity through coverage of all strata of the society, and geographical inclusivity through development of all regions of the country. With the whole of nation approach of Sabka Prayas, the country overcame the challenges of once-in-a-century pandemic, took long strides towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, committed to Panch Pran, and laid solid foundations for the Amrit Kal. As a result, our young country has high aspirations, pride in its present, and hope and confidence for a bright future. We expect that our government, based on its stupendous work, will be again by the people with a resounding mandate.
Hello and welcome back. Well, we have with us Shankar Sharma, market veteran, for his first take on the budget. It was a no surprise budget for me. Whatever we discussed in the morning in terms of nominal GDP growth, 10.5%, that has come. We were talking about market would have easily taken 5.3 to 5.2% in terms of fiscal deficit. It came in at 5.1%, which is a bit of a surprise. It's a positive surprise nevertheless. I was personally thinking that capex growth will come in at 10 to 12%. It has come in at 12%. Some sections of the market were still expecting 15 to 20% in the morning. That might be a tad of a disappointment. I think it's reflected in some of the stocks today, but more of the same thrust on roads, metros, railways, power, green energy, and so on. Really, not so much has changed, but let's go to Shankar Sharma for his take. Shankar? Your first reaction?
So, I mean, it's just a vote on account. So there is nothing much, Mahalakshmi, that we could have expected in terms of a big bang thing. They've just kept the same sound bites, the same terms, which markets love. And, if there is one thing that I like about this government is that it's a very stock market driven government. It knows exactly the language and the lingo that the stock market likes, and it uses it liberally during all such, budget or policy announcements. So to that end, it seems, pretty much like a continuity of what the policies have been. Fiscal deficit coming in, the projected numbers coming in at 5.1. I'm not so sure if they, can manage that. I mean, it looks a bit aggressive.
Right.
But we'll see, how the year pans out. But otherwise, it's just a very straightforward, simplified exercise, being a vote on account.
Right. So I like that term, aggressively conservative on the fiscal deficit number, right? So now coming back to markets, I mean, market is obviously not taking to it very positively in the sense that this is more of the same. So does this just tell us that, everything that had to be factored in, this whole story of next year, another 12% capital expenditure, public spending in the same areas, is that factored in to the stock prices, and therefore we shouldn't look at it as any further trigger?
Exactly right. That's the whole point. So I think the upsides of the capex spend are factored in, Mahalakshmi. I do not think the market has factored in any slippages on the capex front, because the fiscal deficit number seems quite aggressive in terms of the reduction. A 0.7 or 0.8% reduction seems a big deal, and the reduction will necessarily have to come from two counts: better revenues or lower capex, or a bit of both.
Yeah.
The reality will obviously, pan out over the course of the next 12 or 13 months. If the numbers on the revenue front kind of do not come through, then to meet the fiscal deficit, capex will have to be cut back, right? It's very simple. It's household, level, sort of budgetary balancing that you need to understand the fiscal, situation. That, I think, is what is going to weigh on the mind of the market, that if revenue numbers don't come through as much as anticipated, and the cut will have to come from capex in order to meet the fiscal deficit target, which I believe is fairly aggressive, to be honest with you. And I think that's what is right now playing on the minds of the market.
Sure. And so the fact that it is flat, at least, Nifty, you see, is flat. And one would have expected, especially after yesterday's FOMC narrative, that market should have been a tad weak today, isn't it?
Yes, I agree. I mean, so at least we will take the positives. But remember, as far as I can tell, there is still 3 hours of trading left. So,
I know it's not unusual to see, the market absolutely taking a U-turn by the end of in the last hour of trade. Last half an hour, we've seen that many days.
Actually, we have seen it. We've all been around 25, 30 years. And whatever starts out hardly ever ends the same way, whichever way it is.
Correct,
so,
correct.
let's hold our horses right now. All I can say is that if it is flat, I will be very happy with that.
Right. So where do we shift our focus now, Shankar? Because now the markets, obviously, last FOMC meeting, there was a lot more optimism around the fact that, rate cut could happen much more quickly. People were also thinking that, by March, we should start to see rate cuts, which is now, out of question. Do you see the global cues being positive from here on? What will be the triggers that we can focus on from here on for stock prices to go up?
I mean, I think, Mahalakshmi, it was ridiculous for Wall Street to factor in, 4 or 5 rate cuts in, 2024. I mean, when I used to read these kinds of embedded Wall Street estimates, I mean, I used to laugh that, Wall Street, I've never had great respect for in terms of their forecasting abilities. And we've seen it even last year, a big recession was forecast and it didn't actually turn out that way in the US. So I think there's a total garbage that they put out, but this was high level of garbage to expect 4 or 5 rate cuts when the Fed itself has lost a lot of credibility in the preceding couple of years by being too easy with money, too sanguine about inflation. Remember, inflation is transitory. the phrase that can haunt a central banker for a long time to come, right? Remember that?
Yeah.
So given that it has not covered itself with glory, to expect it to make that kind of U-turn all within the space of like one calendar year was being optimistic. I think, the realism is that it would not go as far as cutting 4 or 5 times. And the first one has been missed, obviously. So I think we need to be a little circumspect on that front. That being said, we narrow it down to India. I think India's growth remains a small cap market. That's really what I am really focused on, because nothing in the budget tells me that the large caps are going to do well. Capex is going to be necessarily reduced in order to meet fiscal deficit. And if the glide path to the fiscal deficit of, 4.5% in 26 is to be met, the growth on capex cannot remain at this kind of breakneck speed. It cannot be. Which means that if the capex numbers are dialed back even next budget, whether this government, the same government, another government, a coalition government, whatever formation, if they dial back on capex, the effect on large caps is going to be dramatic. On small caps, not so much. So I continue to believe India remains a fantastic small cap market and an average large cap market.
So that is an absolutely contrarian call, because most fund managers are obviously betting that, with this turn in, global trade setup, you will have FII money coming in, and that will start to support large caps. So you're saying both from a growth perspective, now also from a, fund flows perspective, large caps should not be our focus area?
Fund managers obviously make most of their money from larger AUMs, and larger AUMs necessarily have to be in the larger companies. So it is which side the bread is buttered. That is also
a challenge, Shankar, because most of the money is now coming in small caps. So the money itself is flowing into small caps more than large caps.
I agree. So that's why I'm not interested in doing a mutual fund business where I have to deal with such problems. All I can say is on the personal investing front, it's a fantastic time to be in small caps, as it has been the last couple of years. I see nothing changing, Mahalakshmi. I'm inundated with fantastic opportunities of small cap companies. I'm not sure all of them are going to be doing well, but I think 50-60% of the portfolio, even if it does well, we are all going to be laughing to the bank. So I don't have, fortunately, the same problems as a small cap mutual fund manager or a large cap mutual fund manager. For most people in the stock market, I'm not talking fund managers, being in small caps is going to be, as it has been, is going to be extremely rewarding.
Usually, Shankar, fiscal deficit is really the number that, most foreign investors look at, right? Like to take a call. That's a very important number, at least as far as the budget is concerned. That's the biggest takeaway foreign guys take from the budget. All things being equal, would you say today, because China also, a lot of investors are saying now China is really bottoming out. So fund is actually flowing back. Funds are flowing back to China and may prioritize China over several other markets, including India. Does this put us in a position where, you are saying growth could moderate over the next 2 years? It might be difficult to meet this fiscal target that we have set out. Does that put us on a back foot?
Like I said, the back foot is really for the large caps, because they need larger tailwinds in order to grow. They're already large size companies. If you look at the quarterly numbers of our larger companies, you're talking like 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 crore profit numbers, which are like 40, 50,000 crore annualized numbers, $3, $4, $5 billion profit numbers for any number of companies. You cannot move the needle for such sizes so easily. These are giant, these are behemoths. For relatively still a small size country like India, they have become an outsized part of the economy. And therefore, they need very solid capex and domestic growth numbers. And remember, not real GDP growth numbers. They need strong nominal GDP growth numbers, because large caps necessarily derive growth, which is broadly a mirror of the nominal GDP growth numbers. And that's where the nub of the problem lies. We are going to be projecting a 10-11% nominal GDP growth. Real GDP growth is different, because with the deflator, we have read about this, we know about it, is faulty. Okay, we are using the WPI, which itself has gone into negative territory. So therefore, the disconnect between the nominal and the real is becoming a real problem.
Correct.
Real problem for large cap companies, Mahalakshmi, and that is the nub of the problem for large cap companies. If nominal was 15%, they were a screaming buy. Nominal at 10%, not so much.
Fair enough. And where do you see interest rates going this year? I mean, the projection is one thing, but what the market wants to believe and what will actually happen, like you pointed out earlier, where do you see interest rates going?
So my view is, I mean, you're talking about Indian interest rates.
India, yeah.
Yes. On that front, I don't think the RBI will be profligate. I think it will remain very, very conservative in any dialing back. It will obviously take cues from the West also, which again has said that we are not in any huge rush to dial back on interest rate, cuts. I mean, the interest rate hikes. I mean, we are going to stay put, watch how the scenario pans out. I think RBI under Shaktikanta Das has been a very prudent RBI, and I think it will continue to be conservative, not aggressive. And there is no need to be, frankly speaking. I mean, things are actually probably a bit more under control, given the nominal GDP growth numbers, which are actually probably a tad lower than what any of us would want it to be. So why on earth would you want to, really, tinker around with something that is broadly okay so far?
Sure. Give us a flavor of the kind of, small caps, mid caps that you're really looking at, Shankar. We know some of your stocks, but you tell me, where are you focusing? Because a lot of those, the stocks that have really run up are to do with, some kind of government intervention, whether you look at railways, you look at, smart metering or, anything related to power. So that is all one part of the story. But where are you looking?
I'm not at all interested in anything to do with the government, Mahalakshmi.
Right.
I mean, I look very dated in that thinking, given the run-up in...
But the kind of stocks you look at in the private sector, small mid-cap space, definitely optically look very, very expensive.
Yes, I agree. So I've always believed that valuation, Mahalakshmi, is an overrated tool in investing, because extreme of valuations, can be ignored, but in the middle, whether 15p is good or 20 is not good, I mean, or 25 is too expensive, is all very subjective. I mean, a lot of the companies, at least I invest in, or I'm planning to invest in, or I have invested in, the numbers have been eye-popping last 12 months. So what they looked like as being expensive turned out to be not so expensive, because these are companies with profit numbers of maybe 25, 50, 100 crore numbers, where the needle can move very quickly, unlike for a Larsen & Toubro, or unlike for a Maruti, unlike for a HDFC Bank. So my companies are the younger legs, the fresher legs. They can move much faster. They can take away market share from the larger companies. They can have niches which are fairly protected, and they don't, fortunately, rely on government intervention. So I'm quite happy in my neck of woods. You can call them expensive, but I don't think on a growth basis they look very expensive.
Fair enough. One last question on Paytm. What's your take on Paytm? Does this, obviously the fintech industry is quite shell-shocked about this RBI circular. What is your take? Where does the stock go from here? Does it pose a serious threat for, a certain group of financials?
I mean, I've just read what has been printed, I've read it on Twitter, but I am no expert on the regulations that they have contravened or supposedly contravened. I'm sure there is an appeal process. I'm sure they'll go back to RBI and, submit whatever they are trying to submit. I believe that is how a regulatory problem is resolved. There is a legal process to it. And I don't want to jump to conclusions. All I can say is that, and I have a lot of respect for RBI, broadly, unlike I don't have a lot of respect for some other wings of the government. But RBI typically has remained a fairly neutral organization. When it says something, it usually has good basis to say these things. Paytm has been a problem child of the new listing markets, in the last couple of years. The others have come back. They have done reasonably well, but Paytm has remained a struggler. I mean, I wish it well. I mean, I don't like seeing any company in trouble of this kind, and I'm sure the leadership will deal with it.
Sure. So, Shankar, quickly, next 3 months, what do you see as key triggers for markets? in fact, I would say up until the budget, up until the elections.
Okay, the budget is a long way away. I mean, till elections, there will be a lot of now noise coming out of exit polls or opinion polls and stuff like that. That will keep the market very, very interested, very, very frisky. But broadly speaking, I don't see the trend changing dramatically. I do not see any big change in the theme that has played out, which is large caps being tepid and small caps being on an absolute roll. I don't see much of that changing.
Sure. Thank you so much, Shankar.
Thanks for having him, Mahalakshmi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we have with us Saurabh Mukherjee. Marcellus, Saurabh, your first take.
I think delighted to see the fiscal consolidation. I mean, honestly, without any view without getting into market specifics, it's remarkable to see this sort of fiscal consolidation in an election year. And given that this is the year India is making its debut in the global bond markets, I think this will do a power of good for our reputation. It will bring down the 10-year bond yield. It will strengthen the rupee. It will embellish India's credentials as a market. So I was expecting 5.2 fiscal deficit target for 25. The FM has said 5.1.
Yeah.
4.5 was something I was sort of dreaming about for FY26, but
right.
she's promised that, and naturally, therefore, she's pulled back public sector capex. Public sector capex has grown at around 30% per year for the last 3 years.
Absolutely.
She's pulled it back to 11%. But I think that for me was the highlight. What was also interesting was the focus on energy transition. EV charging stations, rooftop solar, EV buses at the state government level. I think there's plenty more there on EV. My reckoning is after the elections, we'll hear plenty more on this theme. And the third theme, which I think has been a popular theme for them, and I think they want to run with it, is affordable housing. So both the PMAY Grameen version and middle class housing. She didn't specifically say what we can expect there, but it looked like they're going to keep on re-emphasizing the housing theme. So from our investments perspective, we've invested plenty in this space, the building material space, in affordable housing. Hopefully we will make more money from that. We've begun our investments in energy transition. So hopefully by the time she spells out the details on the other side of the elections, we'd have made more investments there. And the general fiscal consolidation, that means more space for the RBI governor to cut rates, hopefully relief on the liquidity front for our private sector bank investments.
Sure. Definitely this 5.1% is quite a surprise, because, most people were expecting 5.3, 5.2, 5.1, and that too in an election year is a surprise. I was just talking to Shankar, and he was saying that, he doesn't believe that it will be met. So do you have concerns like that? I mean, is that...
So I was doing the quick maths. So I have to confess, I haven't sat down in front of an Excel spreadsheet just yet. And obviously, when I heard the 5.1, instinctively, I also was a little worried. But then what she said was 45 trillion spending in FY25. So most people, including myself, had sort of thought of a spending figure closer to 50 trillion, 48 trillion, 49 trillion. So if the spending figure is indeed 45 trillion, then 5.1 should be doable. I don't think she has to have unrealistic assumptions on revenue intake. I think the revenue growth numbers will be in the...
So there is overall contraction in the
That's right. So 45 trillion, a sub 50 trillion number, well below 50 trillion number. If she is able to deliver the 45 trillion spending figure and keep it at or below, then I think 5.1 is very doable.
Okay. And this 12%, of course, like you rightly said, in an election year, I mean, how else will you manage a fiscal consolidation path without cutting down on capital expenditure? That should be. Did you see anything in the budgets that could trigger, consumption? Because that is the weakest part of GDP so far. One would have expected that, she would have fixed that part so that at least, over the next 1 year, you would get consumption up, then private capex could also accelerate, and it becomes easier for us to go a little easy on public spending and rein in fiscal deficit.
So I think what was interesting was she upfront in her budget speech, she was very clear that we don't want to give entitlements to the poor, right? So this is very similar to a Margaret Thatcher type doctrine, right? Reagan-Thatcher doctrine. And over the last 3-4 years, especially after the FY19 elections, NDA 2 has been very clear that this is not going to be handouts and SOPs. This is more about direct benefit transfer where it's required. She was emphatic about how successful they've been with DBT, and rightfully so. Where I think they want to drive the consumption pieces through job creation. The EV charging piece, she seemed to suggest there'll be announcements which make it easier for entrepreneurs to start EV charging stations. I think they expect to do some job creation there. The whole self-help group thing, and then easy financing on easy terms through PSUs, through quasi-governmental organizations. I'm not so sure the NDA 2, given how strong they politically feel, is going to resort to standard welfare spending. I think NREGA, from what I understand, in the small print, there is a modest uptick in NREGA spending, but nothing in the budget which suggests that there will be helicopter drops of cash. It seems more around the lines of, we'll give DBT where it's necessary and required, but beyond that, we'll create schemes which make it easy to create jobs rather than do helicopter drops of cash.
Sure. So you talked about EV transition, you talked about affordable housing, and you said you're invested. So are there any direct plays around these, or it's in and around ancillaries, that is how you bet?
So let's start with the housing piece, right? So FM is talking about middle class housing. There'll be both benefits or encouragement given for build and for buying. Yeah. And the PMAY Grameen piece, where I think they're talking about 2 crore more dwellings to be created over 5 years, right? So there's obviously the entire building material space, and I think for several years we've been invested in names such as Pidilite, Astral Poly, Asian Paints. More recently, we have purchased Serra Sanitary Ware in our small cap portfolio. So there's a whole host of well-run building material companies. I think the affordable housing financiers also are going to become increasingly relevant. If you noticed, Mahalakshmi, over the last year or so, mainstream mortgage finance has grown at around 25%, whereas affordable housing finance has only grown at 15%. Right. I think that flips on the other side of the election if this scheme that FM is talking about has legs in it. Because as I travel around the country, I meet auto rickshaw drivers, vegetable store owners, barbers, rickshaw pullers who are buying houses using PMAY. Right, so in affordable housing, we have Awas as our main investment, but there's a whole bunch of affordable housing plays. I think more will list, and I think people should look out for this theme. I think this will become a defining theme in the years ahead. Affordable housing using a PMAY. PMAY gives you typically 2 lakhs to the buyer, and then the rest of it comes from a AHFC. UPI means even a rickshaw puller can now show a 30-page bank statement. On the energy transition theme, we've invested in Eicher Motors because I saw that Volvo Eicher, the stock market didn't have appreciation for it, and Volvo Eicher was steadily gaining share in the heavy end of the CV space. Volvo Eicher has also set up a new plant in MP for EVs. Beyond that, whilst we don't have Tata Motors, TAMU also has a well-developed EV program, and I'm sure in due course the two-wheeler companies will also start focusing more on EV than on ICE. There's a whole host of ancillaries to look at with regard to EV. We haven't invested in any as yet, but I think the ancillary space will also become interesting, because ancillaries, remember, will not just supply Indian auto OEMs with EV parts, but potentially supply the global auto majors with EV parts as well. So I think plenty more to come here. The more support the government gives to the energy transition now, the more benefits we get in the years ahead, right? And looking more generally beyond these two themes, right? The whole theme around women empowerment. Yeah. It's interesting. The FM, the PM, the Chief Economic Advisor, they're all focusing on the theme. Why are they doing it? Because more women vote in elections now than men. And I don't think that's going to change, at least in the rest of my career. So I think we can safely look forward to the July budget having even more emphasis on putting money in women's purses, whether through job creation schemes or through direct benefit transfer. Historically, so far, we've invested in Nestle, Trent and Titan. These have been, Nestle and Titan have been long-standing investments. Trent has been a more recent investments. Rainbow Medicare in South India is in our small cap portfolio. It's a maternity and childcare hospital focused on 17 locations in South India. But I think the woman theme will also become very big. So therefore, if I look at the next 5 years, right, energy transition, women empowerment, and affordable housing become three big themes to invest into. Quick disclaimer, I'm invested in all of these stocks through our PMS schemes. So are my parents, and so are our 9,000 clients.
Right. So in housing finance, so you will not play it through mainstream financials. You're talking about essentially.
That's right, because mainstream financials focus on more affluent people,
right.
Whereas the FM's focus is, the government's focus is on low income housing. So 10 lakhs, 10 to 30 lakhs, I would say, is the home loan ticket size that the government would be focused on.
Right. Would you bet on any developers, for example, macro tech? I mean, they do a bit of that, right? So
the only challenge with developers as a play on affordable housing is there's no barriers to entry there, right? Almost anybody with a little bit of land and a wherewithal to get the relevant regulatory clearances can become a developer. And if you notice, even today, even in the middle of this crazy boom in real estate developer share prices, you open the cash flow statements of the developers, they're not making any money. And the reason they don't make any money in terms of cash flows is there are dozens of them in any location pursuing the same customer. The customer obviously benefits, but investing in real estate developers in India is a very tricky task because of the lack of barriers to entry.
And EVP push, again, you're saying you will go through the auto ancillary route.
So we've done one OEM, we've done Eicher Motors as an OEM. We're looking for more ANC plays, because as I said, on the OEM piece, the challenge is you invest in a OEM, you got to also deal with the fact that their ICE, the ICE piece will die, and the EV piece will rise, and you're constantly trying to juggle the two. Whereas if you focus on auto ANCs who specialize in EV ANCs, then you don't have to worry about the ICE piece dying on them. Now, there aren't that many, but there are a few, and I think that will go public. And therefore, EV through ANC might be a better way to go about it than EV through OEM.
Right. And this green energy push, I mean, do you play this at all? She talked about, increase in viability gap funding. She talked about huge expansion plan, coal gasification, and so on. So
look, I think rooftop solar will potentially become a very interesting thing. It's almost similar to building materials. Just as a Pidilite or an Astral Poly has been able to build barriers to entry in its, in adhesives and in pipes, a well-managed rooftop solar company could potentially do the same. We haven't spotted any in the stock market yet, but I think if there's a big scheme around rooftop solar, given that much of the country is drenched with sunshine for much of the year, this looks like a potent theme. And I'm sure there'll be private equity investors who are right now looking for, or perhaps making rooftop solar investments, which will debut in the stock market in the next 2 to 3 years.
Right. So this is pretty much the story of today, Saurabh. But overall, if you were to just look, a little out, maybe the rest of the year, how does the market look to you? What are the forces? What are the counter forces? What are the triggers you are watching over the next 3 months?
I think 3 big things to look out. Firstly, the situation in the Middle East is tricky, and I don't think there's any other word around it. People that we have never heard of have blocked the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. They seem to have it's not a situation where Washington DC can call up a government and negotiate with them. These are basically wild people, rebels who are hijacking ships, sending drones with missiles on it, right? So it's a very tricky situation. You're dealing with supranational terrorists basically, and they're blocking the most critical freight route in the world. So I think it's a tricky situation. I don't have an easy answer. If the Middle Eastern situation calms down, I'm pretty sure bond yields will come off, inflationary pressures will come off, you'll see equities rally further, but I'm no expert on whether the Middle Eastern situation will calm down or not. I think the second call, in a way linked call, but let's think of it as a distinct call, is when does the Federal Reserve start cutting? Last night, the Federal Reserve chair said that the rate cuts are going to come later rather than sooner. Yet they have elections to contend with. So if the rate cuts come by the middle of the year in the United States, that makes it easier for the RBI governor to cut, which in turn gives fillip to both our banking sector stocks and to equities in general. And the third piece to look out for is the whole issue around China's economic, there's no other better word. Decline is a polite way to put it. Let's just say call it China's economic decline, and India's filling up that vacuum. I think the NDA2 has capitalized on it brilliantly so far. And my reading, Mahalakshmi, is the July budget. There'll be more tangible steps, such as PLI, such as FAME, which will allow India to step into the void, colossal void created by China's decline. If China's decline continues and India keeps capitalizing, all power to us. So the fairy tale situation for us will be by Diwali, the Middle East has quietened down, crude prices are at 70, the Indian 10-year bond yield has a 6, perhaps a 6.5 handle to it. The Federal Reserve has started cutting, and China continues to have Evergrande type giant real estate developers going belly up. That combination could be very powerful for the stock market in our country.
So what is it that you expect could happen in the next budget that couldn't have been done in this budget?
I think naturally...
But it's just that, because I'm just thinking about it, backwards, that if you were to keep 5.1% as your target fiscal deficit for next year, then what would you do differently in the next budget?
So my reading is there will be tax changes that will be coming through in July. I think because the elections are around the corner and because the PM has promised a vote on account, the FM held back on the tax announcement. I'm pretty sure there will be announcements on taxes in July. There'll also have to be announcement on disinvestment. There's been several misses on disinvestment for several years. Obviously, before the elections, there's no point trying to disinvest a big PSU, just not tenable. But I think there will be announcements on disinvestments, and I'm pretty sure that early on in the 5-year cycle, the NDA will try to push through whatever disinvestments they can. And I think the third area where we are likely to get announcements in July are with regard to trade treaties. So again, I don't think it'll be likely that the government will sign trade treaties this side of the elections, but it's pretty likely that on the other side of the elections we will get, hopefully UK, I think Switzerland is also around the corner. So those are the three things so tax changes, some tax cuts for the middle class, counteracted with tax hikes elsewhere. Trade treaties and disinvestment are the three things that we can consider for the July budget, which there wasn't, the occasion for announcing today.
And your top 3 themes for now, for the next 6 months, in fact, for the rest of the year would be?
I would say the big transition we will see, and the FM alluded to it, actually she actually pointed to it clearly. She's saying that, look, we the government have done enormous public sector capex.
Right.
Public sector capex has gone up 30-35%, 3 budgets in a row. This time, as she announced the 10% hike, she's saying now the focus is on the baton passes to the private sector. So we at Marcellus are trying our best to identify private sector capex plays. So far we made investments, Mahalakshmi, in Shanti Gears, in RHI Magnesita, in SKF, which makes these ball bearings. We've invested for several years ago in Grindwell, Norton and Stay Investment. So private sector capex, theme number 1. Secondly, this whole focus on Nari Shakti. This will run. There's a massive constituency that is aspirational, well-educated, increasingly finding income and employment, and it'll be logical for the politicians to cater to that. As I said, so far
you're saying Nestle, but is there anything that is more focused, that you could play? Titan definitely is one.
So similarly, Trent, the main engine is women. Rainbow Medicare, it's maternity and pediatric care. We're looking for more such plays, but so far this is what we've identified. In a way, if you were to sort of, think about it, Nykaa, Mamaearth, or FSN Commerce, Mamaearth, these are women-focused plays. I just wish they made a little bit more money and make it easier for us to invest. So if we see more such plays, if a Nykaa starts generating cash flow properly, if a Mamaearth starts generating cash flows properly, those sorts of plays, because what's very interesting is many of the needs of women are being intuited and catered to better by women entrepreneurs than by male entrepreneurs. And perhaps it's obvious to someone like you, but for people, middle-aged men like me, that's a revelation that women entrepreneurs cater to the needs of other women better than middle-aged men can. And we're certainly looking forward to finding more such companies. But I think this will be a structural theme. What do women want to buy? Because they'll have more and more money. By the way, the RBI data now shows women have more money in their bank accounts in urban areas than men, and women have more bank accounts than men. Right? So if we join the two, it's pretty powerful, and I'm sure the powers that be in Delhi have clocked that women have more jobs, more bank accounts, and more money in those bank accounts than men, and we as the stock market are trying to catch up with them. And the third theme, as I was saying, energy transition. Massive theme for our country. We don't have to replicate the mistakes of China and build a huge ICE ICE machine. The quicker we transition to EVs, the better. And if our EV ecosystem is efficient enough to become an exporter, then it also becomes a creator of jobs for the country. As I said there, Eicher Motors so far has been our investment because the VECV piece and the fact that VECV has got an EV piece going. But there are plenty of other EV investments we need to research in Marcellus as we try to capitalize on the energy transition.
All right, cool. That's all. Thank you so much, Saurabh. Three good themes, and this woman is definitely a new thing, and we'll keep watching this space and looking out for companies that cater especially to women. So we have with us now Prashant Jain. Okay. So he'll join in about 10 seconds by the time. Yeah. Hi, Prashant.
Yes, Mahalakshmi, hello, how are you?
Very good, thank you. What's your first take on the budget? Surprised by 5.1%, positively surprised?
No, Mahalakshmi, I think I was expecting that because this government has been very steadfastly focused on the target of below 4.5 by fiscal 26. So I think it is good and it's on expected lines.
Sorry, Prashant, I lost you.
No, I think, Mahalakshmi, I was saying this was more or less an expected lines because